It's another episode of This Week in Google Glass, episode number 59. We got a special guest, Jamie Davis, talking about technology, wearable technology in the healthcare space. We've also got a lot of news. We've also got the Apple Watch and a whoosh. And so we're going to shake it out. Luke, why don't you shake it out a little bit? It is episode number 59 of Wearable Today. Hey everybody, Jeffrey Powers here, shaking it out. Come on and shake it out. From Geekazine, Think Magazine, put in the geek, you've got Geekazine. And of course, Wearable Today. Jeff at wearabletoday.com, that's the email you can go. And of course, my cohort in crime, always here and shaking it out, Mr. Luke Wallace with his bird who's shaking it out as well.
I'm shaking it off. Shake it off. Yeah.
Birdie,
yeah.
Shake it off, Birdie.
So, my name is Luke Wallace. I go by Luke Luca on Twitter. You can reach me by email at luke@wearabletoday.com. Birdie agrees. This is Birdie. Birdie at wearabletoday.com.
Exactly.
Yep.
Birdie does have his own email address, and you can email him there. Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, he's yeah. Did he get some email or something?
Yeah, actually got some fan mail.
Really? That's
yeah,
more. That's
from my mom.
Oh, okay.
She and my dad watched the show, and they sent some fan mail into Birdie. Yeah, I know. Birdie.
So that means that Birdie has officially gotten more mail than you and I combined.
yeah, she's on top.
All right. Well, if you want to keep sending stuff to Birdie, that's BIRDIE at wearabletoday.com. There. And there. And now it's time for the news in our segment called Big News, Little Arms.
So first up, we go to a early report from the Wall Street Journal. This report comes from Fool.com, the Motley Fool. Glass is going x86 as Intel has inked out a deal to have their processors in the next version of Glass. Google Glass currently uses the ARM Cortex-A9 processor, which is pretty old, mostly considered outdated, and it uses a 45 nanometer fabrication process, whereas this new chip Intel is working on is reportedly running at 22 nanometers. Intel will most likely make a more specialized version of their chips that focus on video collection, so the device doesn't heat up too much while capturing. It'll also be lower power usage for just all purposes of Glass, so that should increase battery life and hopefully performance as well.
All right, moving on. Sony is working on a watch that's going to be made out of what's called electronic paper. It's not going to be like a paper-like substance on your wrist or anything like that. And it's not boasting paper-thin watch by any means, but with a thin interface, you can expect a lightweight and thinner watch in the next couple of years. No other big details have been said, but it might be safe to say that they will fall in the Xperia line as probably the Xperia watch to match the Sony Xperia Z3 tablet. Probably at that time it'll be the Z4s that'll be out there. And I've got a Z2. And it's paper, it's wafer thin, and it's beautiful. So I expect it to be just as beautiful as that.
And then next up, we have a new twist on the wearable market. Watch, that's WOTCH. Watch, maybe it's British, is a smartwatch band that you strap onto your favorite watch face. If you're watching the video, it looks like a standard watch, a non-smartwatch, where the band has a screen on it. And so the clasp area has a touch screen display, and according to the videos, you'll be able to swipe and it'll swipe away notifications. They haven't gone into a lot of detail. It doesn't say whether it runs Android Wear or something more custom than that. It's still just an early development, so if you want to learn more, you can go to the watch.de. That's WOTCH.de, which is their website where you can sign up to learn more and see more about this smart band smartwatch.
Whoosh. Is Birdie having fun with the microphone, I take it?
Yeah, she fell off my shirt a little bit.
Oh. Is Birdie okay?
Yeah, Birdie's fine.
Okay. Well, I'm just talking because apparently halfway through this, some of these pages have decided to die on me, so thanks to Google technology. So let's move on here. These shoes are worn by Peter Pan. Maybe not. But these smart shoes, it's a smart shoe called, I don't know if it's Lechel or Leckel. It's a new way to map. It's a new map guide, but not in any conventional way as like a smartwatch would do. Basically, it's Bluetooth connected. The shoes will tell you when to turn left or when to turn right simply by the shoe vibrating. The left shoe would vibrate, tell you to turn left, the right shoe would, to turn right, of course. The shoes can also tag items through a tapping process through the foot and count your steps and count your calories in the journeys along the way. And of course, that sends that to the phone and go from there. No other details just yet, but if you want to read more on that, we've got it at zigradar.com, zigradar.com, if you want to check that out and go from there. And finally, that was it, wasn't it? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And so that does it for this segment of Big News, Little Arms. And apparently not knowing when the segment ends and the other segment begins. But we do have another segment. But first of all, Luke, been a very interesting week for me. As I came back from Barcelona, Spain this last week. Had a lot of fun. I didn't take the Google Glass, but I did take my GoPro, and I wore my GoPro around. I got to talk, very interesting, I got to talk, HP's doing something called DCA, and I can't remember what the acronym means, but basically it's software that will put together all the wearable stuff. So you'll have a smartphone, you'll have a smartwatch, and maybe you'll have a Google Glass, and then it'll go back to their enterprise. So let's say if you're a service person and you need to make a call, whether it be IT work, whether it be fixing radiators or fixing heating, cooling systems, or whatever the situation, it'll direct you from start to finish. So you'll be able to map the route to the location you need to go to. You'll be able to indicate to the people that you're there. And your ETA getting there, so they'll be able to watch you as you get there. They'll be able to if you put your phone in your pocket, you can use the watch. If your watch is dead, it'll know that, and it'll send information to your glass, or it'll send it to your other wearable device. And then if you need instructions, if you come up against something that is very old or you don't have knowledge on, you can actually load up that information to the glass, and then that all gets recorded through the enterprise process. And so you can review your call and see what you did right and what you did wrong, how long you took, all that other good stuff. So amazing stuff there. Plus, it was all about enterprise. HP Discover was the event that I was at. I did get to see some of their printing and their desktop side, and I got a lot of video, including the video about how HP helped Coca-Cola with their promotion, where you give a Coke to a friend and it has the friend's name on it. They were part of that whole thing. So it's just an amazing time. I got to talk to a lot of people, and a lot of great video off of my GoPro camera. I just posted the 4K airport landing in Amsterdam, and it's just amazing what I did with that. So, Luke, how was your week?
It's been good. I've actually, since the last show we didn't do a show last week, right?
No.
Yeah, so since the last show that we did, because it was Thanksgiving, I guess was why we didn't do a show, but I have marched in 2 parades as Luke Skywalker with the 501st Legion. The Rebel Legion is the good guy and a subgroup of that. So I did a march with in the Austin Chewy's Children Giving to Children Parade. Sorry, the Children Giving to Children Parade, sponsored by Chewy's, down in Austin. It was televised. I was able to find a clip, and for about a second, way in the background, because they went to commercial just as our group got up to the cameras. They kind of cut away, so you could barely see me there. I did share a video someone I just found on Google Plus had recorded a video of our group going by, and you could see me walking by in that, so that was kind of fun.
Yeah. I did see that, by the way, and I thought that was the TV segment, so I didn't call it up because that could cause copyright issue.
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
you know
sure.
how that goes.
Sure.
So, but it's a really cool clip.
So that was the Saturday right after Thanksgiving, and then yesterday, December 6th, Saturday, I marched in the Dallas Children's Parade, sponsored by Children's Health and Pizza Hut, sponsoring that. And there were about 50 of us there. There were a lot of people dressed up as, what do you call them? The Boba Fett. I feel horrible. Messed it up. Mandalorians. The Mandalorian Mercs is the group that marched with us, and there were about like 8 or 10 of them. Half a dozen, actually about a dozen stormtroopers, and then another 20 or 30 kind of random characters. So really good. I'll be posting pictures up on my Google Plus page either later today or sometime this week of the group there if you want to see it. So that was really fun. Yeah, you can kind of see me going by there in that little preview.
I figure that's the safe bet.
Yeah, that's perfectly safe. Yeah, real fun. Lots of excitement from all the people watching. Yeah, pretty cool. So the Dallas Children's Parade that I said I marched in yesterday is actually televised all over the country. It'll be televised in Dallas next weekend and probably in other regions. Every major market, it looks like, according to the website. So check your local listings for the Dallas Children's Parade and set your DVRs, and maybe if next week I should be able to let you know if that's actually in the video, so then I can tell you kind of about what minute to go to see the Star Wars group come through. So
okay, well that's pretty cool. I didn't get to march in no parade. These are not the podcast hosts you're looking for. Something like that. So no, it's pretty cool. Good job on that. So, and of course you look like Luke Skywalker. So use the Force on this next segment and call us in on the next segment here.
Apple Watch, is that? Yes, this is the watch you're looking for.
There you go. Is it really the watcher? Did you just really promote? Wait. Let's just back here. Did you just really promote Apple?
You know, I've been thinking about it, right? So the problem with the Apple Watch or Android Wear is that it only really works on one platform. So if somebody is all in on, the Apple platform, it's really hard to recommend an Android Wear device. Like, it's just not going to work for you. So I can say it's great for me, but it's, you have to kind of wait for the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Now, if you're willing to go back and forth, well, maybe you could go back and forth, but like, I'm not going to buy an Apple Watch, not because it's necessarily like, horrible or anything like that. It's just, it wouldn't work with my device anyway. So
yeah,
it would just be a really expensive watch, and I wouldn't get nearly the benefit out of it. So so if you're already in the Android world, I would say Android Wear is there, and you have lots of options. And if you're not, then the Apple Watch is probably the watch you're looking for, because it's one of the really good ones coming out.
Yeah, definitely. And of course you do have some watches in between.
Yes, you can
get a Pebble watch, for example, but apparently that's old and archaic.
Yeah, it's like a year old, ancient.
Back in my day when I had a wearable, I wore the Pebble watch. Now, it doesn't exist anymore because it's a whole year later. But, I saw that Pebble watch and it was awesome.
And they made it better. I think there's actually probably news we could have talked about. I think there were some Pebble updates that added some more capabilities to it and stuff.
Oh,
so it's not that the Pebble's bad. You know.
I'm totally expecting the Pebble to come out once again at CES and say, okay, here's the 2015 version. They have to. I mean, it's almost a moral imperative, because even though I was joking on that whole, hey, remember that shit? It's kind of true. Pebble paved a good way for smartwatches, but they got to keep up their game to keep up their game. So, but anyway, we're not talking about Pebble Watch or Moto 360 or Samsung Watch. We're talking about Apple Watch, and like I said, we'll do it again. It's the Apple Watch here, and we're basically Apple's patenting a series of interconnected sensors and the collection of the data to the iPhone, and they did this week. Basically, the gyros, the gyros, I know I was gonna stumble on that one. The gyros, the locations. If they had a gyro inside of an Apple Watch,
Man,
I
think
would
I'd
buy
one
it
anyway,
in a second. Exactly, exactly. So, the gyros, the location sensors, the body worn sensors, they basically would send the data to the device. Then, of course, the server for analysis. And although Apple still does not have a wearable device out there, they are on track to own the data collection from the Apple device. And from what I've seen from the patents, it's really just the process from Apple devices to Apple devices. So I don't know how that's going to work when Moto 360 has are they going to put out their own patents for Android, or is Android going to put out their own patents, or whatnot? It's interesting to see. We'll see what happens. But what are your thoughts on it?
Sorry, I was working on a joke. I was thinking about it. They should call the. I haven't said the joke yet. They should call.
No, that was the joke, wasn't it?
No, so they should come up with an API or an SDK, I guess, for the gyroscopes.
Okay.
And the gyro SDK should be called Lamb Kit. Is it Lamb Kit? You know, like lamb and a gyro. I'm going to hijack this for a second here, because it just reminded me when I was in Barcelona. The first thing when I got there, the first thing I saw was this one building, and it was kind of a reddish brown, and it had a shape that went like this. And the only thing that it simply reminded me of was, if you go to Gate Gyros, they put the lamb on the spit and shave it off, and then the top, it just kind of does that whole top heavy type thing. Yeah. And this building was exactly like that. It had that, and let's see if I can find it really quick. And it was my point of reference in Barcelona, because I've never been to Barcelona before. I like to get a point of reference so I know where I am, what I'm doing. And I called that building. It's probably got a name to it, but I called that building the gyro building. Yeah. So. And I'm going to show you the photo here in a second here. But anyway, I know I hijacked that, and I apologize. No, I did. I ruined it first. I got off track.
What do you mean? You don't. We don't ruin things. What are you talking about? So
we made it delicious.
Very delicious. Let's see if I can find this really, really quick here. Where is this? Let's keep or.
Here, I'll talk about what I think about the actual story for a second.
Talk about that. We'll show you the leg lamb later. So
okay, so I think it's really neat. It's always smart to use the sensors you have. I think Apple does a very good job of making assumptions based on your behavior of how you're doing, or how you're using your devices and adapting to it. I know Google does the same thing. Apple is maybe a little more aggressive in some of their patents on it, but it's really interesting that they think that this is so revolutionary of monitoring the user, keeping track of if they're sleeping, then don't play an audible ringtone on their phone, just vibrate their wrist or something because they can it's all about combining the data from all these different data points so that you're not going off of just a single device anymore. You're not just saying, well, the phone's sitting down, So that could be on their desk, that could be on their nightstand. We really don't know. So let's just, we can't really assume much of anything. Well, maybe if it's late at night, we'll make it some quiet hours. Now you're starting to get where, well, they've got their watch, and based on the sensors there, they're either sleeping or just laying in bed not doing anything. So let's turn off.
Which I do a lot.
Yeah. Maybe they're just watching TV, just hanging out, and it's like, well, we probably want to turn the ringer off on their phone because if they are sleeping, we don't want to wake them up. But if they're just watching TV, I guess we could at least vibrate on their wrist, and so it's really kind of clever to just use all of the available data and try to make some good choices. I'm sure Apple will have some amount of configurableness, that's probably not the right word, to use for it, so you can turn it off or make it a little bit more accurate for you. But yeah, really, really neat idea.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely like it. Well, I found the picture really quick.
Yeah,
We'll do this very, very quick. There's the picture right there. The building, it's the middle building right there. And you can see what I mean. It looks like a leg of lamb. So, and even right now, I'm hungry for gyros. So, but anyway, I'm reading this and I'm thinking to myself, well, it's all about patent fights, and anybody that puts out technology, that you want to get a patent out there, because you could end up being in so many other person's pieces of technology, and it's very interesting to see how to understand how this all works out. But it's like with IBM this last week, last couple of weeks, IBM's been selling their stuff off like no tomorrow, and everybody's going, well, how is this company going to survive? Well, the company has thousands upon thousands of patents. Granted, there's a lot of them that are dead, but there's a lot of them that are still used in printers today. They're still used in monitors today, and in PCs today. So they could pretty much lay off a lot of their staff and just run on their patents if they needed to. And I think that's what Apple's doing, because it's all about the bottom line. It's about the shareholders. And of course, Apple did that big drop of 6% last week in their stock. And it rebounded 3%, but and I'm not a stock person, so I'm not exactly sure the whole thing. I just read a little bit about it, but they need to keep their investors happy, and they do that by being able to control the technology, and by putting out these patents first, they control the technology. And it's just a question of if there's another patent out there that's already been done that somebody can fight them for.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
So, anything do you need to add to that, or?
No, I think it's really good. It'll be interesting to see how these patents get used, and other ideas that come up based on it.
Anything that Bertie wants to add to that?
I think Bertie's good. Bertie's Bertie would like to know where we're at, and so she likes to keep track of us.
So that was Apple Watch. And of course, you can check that out. We've got the article up on appleinsider.com. Now, special guest, a friend of mine, Jamie Davis. He's coming on the show, and we're going to talk a little bit about EMTs, the medical space, and a little bit about wearables on that. So let's roll that interview and go from there. All right, we're here with Jamie Davis, the pod medic of over at Health Tech Weekly. How you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing great, Jeff. It's great to talk to you. It's been, about a year almost, right?
Yeah, ever since our CES action, we talked a lot about healthcare and technology in CES, and I can't wait to get your thoughts of CES this year. But first of all, why don't you tell everybody who you are, where they can find you?
Well, I'm Jamie Davis. I go by the handle PodMedic on most social media sites, so you can find me there. But I am a nurse and a paramedic and a passionate podcaster about healthcare and journalism in the healthcare space. So you can find me, my Health Tech show at Health Tech Weekly at htweekly.com. And of course, all of my shows you can just find over at mediccast.com. So I have 7 or 8 different shows I do over there.
There you go. And a lot of great shows, too. So I've been following you for years, of course. And a lot of great stuff. But, of course, we're talking about wearable technology. And I took off my Google Glass. I better put them back on. And I've had many a great conversation about my Google Glass with many healthcare professionals, to the point where we've decided that, in the future, when you have like a medic kit, like a defibrillator or just a first aid kit, there might be a pair of Google Glass in there at one point in time.
Yeah, we'll talk about that because that's a big deal. I know we're going to talk about body cams and things like that for medical professionals in the field, just like police officers. And there's some opportunities to really do some amazing things with that kind of technology.
Exactly. First of all, let's get your take on the state of wearable technology in the healthcare space right now.
Well, there's two parts of it, and we kind of chatted about this before we started recording. There's the professional side, which is encompassing implanted devices, medical devices that would be given to you or implanted in you by a healthcare professional, like a defibrillator or a pacemaker or something like that. And those devices, I think there's opportunities for them to be connectable and connected to an outside source like a smartphone app or an outside computer via Bluetooth. But as far as I know, there's nothing FDA approved that can do that right now. So that technology is typically conservative, and I don't expect that to be anything that we see maybe for the next 5 years or more. Okay. On the other side of that, we have the consumer devices. And really, there's nothing that's really leapt out at me yet as the that's the health wearable device of the future. Most everything out there is some variation of a digital pedometer. It counts your steps or measures somehow your activity level. So you have things like the Fitbit and the Fitbug. You have the Lumo devices. You have the Nike Fuel Band. You have these other devices that are similar that will measure your basic activity. And really where they start to stand apart from each other is the attached software, cloud-based usually, that allows you to input additional information and thereby track your health through really what is basically what you could do already without the wearable device. Track your health online through any number of different database trackers that are out there. Okay. So I'm really waiting for that device that takes it to the next level. And so I think about the wrist wearable Android devices and the upcoming, yet to be released Apple iWatch. And I'm really watching that space very carefully because some wearables you just hook on your clothing, but you really, in order to do the next step, you really need to have something that has skin-to-skin contact. Yeah. And that's what I'm looking for.
Now, speaking of skin-to-skin contact, a few months ago we had that issue with the Fitbit and certain users having a adverse reaction to that, and I'm. That you talked about FDA approval on some of these things. Would an Apple iWatch or something like that get some sort of FDA approval or anything?
They've
like
already
that?
gotten some basic FDA clearances for some of the monitoring that they do, but because it's an external device and it's not hooking electrodes up to you. It's not meant to be a healthcare device. It's meant for informational purposes only, the quote unquote, so that they don't have to be an official healthcare device. They don't have to have the same level of approval as, for instance, a pulse sensor that I would use as a paramedic in the back of an ambulance that you slip over your finger that measures the oxygen in your blood and your pulse. That device is got to go through a lot more, jump through a lot more hoops with the FDA to get approved because they want to know if it's measuring accurately all the time. And there's a very slender, narrow window of what they expect for variability in the measurements. Whereas in a consumer device, that is not nearly as narrow when you just say we're collecting this information for information only. It's still good to know, and I think that's the next step is if you track your pulse over time using the same device, even if it's not as accurate as something your doctor might give you, it's still giving a trend. And if that trend is going up or going down or changing in some way, that information is still valuable to me as a healthcare professional. And so that's really what I'm looking for, is something that can measure that information, track it over time. And this really comes back to just data. The more data points we have on a patient, the more likely it is we can really track down what's going on with them more quickly. And that's what I think we're going to see with this, is that the data collection that comes along with this type of a device is really what I'm looking for, because that's what the healthcare professionals are going to start using to monitor patients remotely.
Yeah. Well, and I just came back from a technology conference, and I sat in a session where they talked about big data, and more to the point, dark data, which is the data that gets collected that we have no clue on how to decipher and use that information, but we keep it because you never know when that aha moment comes and all of a sudden all that information becomes relevant. And I'm assuming in the medical field, when it comes to collection, there's a very similar process, right?
Yeah, and so collecting that data is really about, there's something I did recently where there's a site, patientslikeme.com, that allows people to share anonymously their personal information. They can track it for themselves, but that data also goes into an anonymous database that is then used for people with similar conditions. So if you have XYZ disease, you can see what kind of symptoms and challenges people with similar diseases have. But it's anonymous. You can't track it back to a given user on the site, but it's anonymized. And I think that kind of tracking, that kind of data collection is I think that's what you're talking about, is this data we're going to begin to collect a whole ton of data.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's done with that data can really, I think, in many ways change the world. And we're not going to know for a couple of years, once that data starts getting collected, what people are going to start doing with it. But my hope is that it is made available. There's some famous studies out there where people just tracked consistent data, things like blood pressures and stuff like that, over a period of years. And they're looking back at that data from 30, 40 years ago, because it was just somebody collected it. And so they're able to actually make some assumptions and make some decisions about people based upon that older data that's been collected year after year after year after year. And so something that does this for a larger population makes it much more valuable.
Well, that's and I find that all amazing because, you hear of the person in China who lives to be 103 and doesn't have the health problems, as opposed to the person in an urban setting, probably eating Big Macs every single day, or even eating healthy and trying to have that same type of exercise and diet routine that the person in China has. It'd be interesting to see if there is a correlation between living in an urban area as opposed to living in an area that's pretty wide open.
And believe it or not, that line's getting blurred much more day by day. The influence of Western culture has reached even some of the more remote areas of the world. And there are people that are dealing with diabetes and obesity in their culture because of the availability of things like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and sugary drinks like that are safer sources of drinking fluids than their water in their community.
Yeah.
So they are drinking that because it's safer to drink, but it's not necessarily better for them. And it's a conundrum. I just saw a statistic recently that the World Health Organization said by 2030, about 50% of the world's population will be overweight.
Wow. And I am one of those people that
yeah, me
can
too.
attest to it.
I can't say I'm perfect in that respect either.
But I was just in Barcelona, and you had a choice. You either had alcohol, you had water from a bottle, clear or sparkling, or Coke, and of course coffee. So there was never water from the tap. There were other healthy choices, but they were few and far between. They usually were mixed drinks with alcohol, but it was all really good. So what can you do?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, well, let's change gears just a little bit, because I definitely want to ask you this question. It's the question everybody's been having on their mind about the whole Ferguson issues, and the call to have police officers wearing body body cameras on their person. And I know when it gets adopted in the police force, it usually gets adopted in EMTs, and there's definitely some crossover when it comes to that. So, what are your thoughts on EMTs, on doctors wearing body cameras? Would it be something more in the hospital? Would it be something more in the field, or should everybody just wear them and be done with it?
Well, it's going to come in the police forces. I think it's going to be one of those things that's going to be eventually mandated, and there's going to be some federal money that's going to have to come down for smaller departments that can't afford it, to put these into play. And I think it's a good thing. I think, if there had been a body camera in Ferguson, it would have answered a lot of questions. That said, video is not going to solve every problem, because we look at what happened in New York City with the chokehold situation there. There was plenty of video. I still think that people are missing the point about whether you should resist arrest or not, but let's not get into that. Yeah. Let's look at the EMT side of things, though, and say that we have the challenge of patient confidentiality to deal with. And so if we're going to be routinely collecting video of every patient we encounter, there needs to be some things that happen to protect that data for the patient, if that makes sense. And so we have the HIPAA laws and things like that have to be, we have very strict rules about how we protect electronic media that contains patient information, and a patient's face would be patient information. That said, there's some really cool tools that are on the advent of coming out there. In fact, I saw one at CES last year that was a pair of glasses that had video cameras, multiple video cameras across the top of the bar. And then the glasses themselves had a virtual reality or augmented reality screen that you looked through at the patient. And the multiple cameras looked at different spectrums of light. And you used it to find IV access, venous access in the patient's arm or leg or wherever you were looking to get an IV started. And to insert that needle once rather than multiple times, because some patients are hard to find access on. Yeah. That's a really cool device. It also had built into it a camera that could be connected to a teleconferencing or telemedicine rig that would allow the person to communicate back to base station, where there was another nurse or physician or somebody that was guiding the information that was going on and interacting with the person that was using the glasses. Still not ready for prime time. I think it's a year or so out from being released to the public, but that's an example of what I could see. Something like Google Glass. Imagine a similar functionality in Google Glass, where you were looking at a patient and the camera could change spectrums several times and give you an augmented reality view of what you're looking at, so that maybe a different shade of color light gives you a different look at the patient's skin. And lets you see different things. And then again, communicate back with a base station via a wireless connection that allows a physician to see what you're dealing with from the ER. That I think is an interesting thing. So I could see something like a Google Glass, because there would need to be two-way communication, and it would need to be relatively portable. Okay. So unlike the police cameras, which are record only. Yeah. And so those body cams that police officers wear, they go to a little hard drive belt pack, and they just turn them in at the end of the day, and it automatically uploads the video to a server. And then if that video is needed, they can go back and access it weeks later. If there's an incident or a report. But they don't have any way to access that or communicate back to headquarters on that video. For a paramedic, I think that the direction it's going to go for it to be really functional is going to be for the paramedic or the nurse in a home healthcare situation to have something like a Google Glass that has that interactivity, that has the ability to communicate back. Someone could type in orders back at the hospital. They'd appear on the Google Glass screen. You could look up there and it would say, give this many milligrams of this drug.
Okay. Going back to that other part, because it just reminded me of Kit from Knight Rider, where it's just like a bunch of view screens up on top and just a little red light going back and forth. Yep. But if it could see something like the vein underneath the skin, it could actually pick up other things. Like if this person was doused in something like maybe gasoline or something like that, so an EMT can be very careful on situations like that. And then, of course, on that same aspect, if this was from a crime, then a CSI person could take a look at what was collected by the EMT and say, okay, at that time we see some interesting stuff over here. We can now go back to the crime scene, see if we can pick up some sort of DNA off of it.
There's some amazing functionality that's coming out right now with cameras and medical devices, and using things like smartphone cameras to do medical things. There's an app out there that's being used in parts of the third world that is basically takes a picture of the eye in a maxi focal setting, where they get up really close, they take a picture of the eye with the flash on, and they actually can see aspects of the retina. They transmit that data back via this smartphone app to a central hospital setting where an eye specialist can look at it and see there's certain conditions going on from the middle of the bush somewhere.
Oh, wow.
Where normally they'd have to take a $10,000 or $20,000 machine out into the field to do the same test. Now they can do it on a smartphone. A similar thing with newborn jaundice, which is a common condition with newborn babies. As their organs start to ramp up, they aren't capable of doing some basic metabolic processes until they're a few days old, and so their liver and their kidneys start to process slowly as they're first born, and so they get this yellowish tinge to their skin that shows that a buildup of certain toxins. If it gets too bad, they need to go back into the hospital for some treatment. But how do you know how yellow is yellow, right?
Yeah.
They actually have developed an app that will, using a calibration card, you lay on the baby's chest, you take a picture of the baby's skin next to the calibration card. It looks at their skin color, it looks at their skin tone, so if they're dark-skinned or light-skinned person, and then it measures it against that calibration card, against an algorithm in the cloud, and it determines how yellow they are.
Exactly. I've seen that app, and that's pretty cool.
It's really cool.
I suppose as long as you don't Instagram it, it'll be fine.
Well, and that's it. I mean, actually, there's an Instagram for medical professionals. It's very HIPAA protected and very closed off. It's called Figure One. So for those out there that are medical professionals, they can actually get it. It is just you share things. It can black out faces. It automatically detects a face and blocks it out. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
No, I was just joking on the fact of taking a picture of a jaundiced baby and then Instagramming it with a different filter.
That's not a joke in the healthcare field. People do stupid stuff like that all the time.
That's true. That is true. Let's change gears here, because I definitely want to find out what you're expecting here. If you've seen anything, because I'm getting the CES email, and I know you're getting the CES email. So is there anything that I remember we did a couple of years ago, and we joked about this for a couple seconds before we started about the Happy Fork.
Oh my gosh!
It's
one of my more embarrassing journalistic moments.
Yeah, but now this year they've got a spoon that's supposed to help with Parkinson's, and by stabilizing the shaking. Mm-hmm. So is there anything at CES that's come across your desk that you've seen that you either classify as something that's gonna vault us to the next generation, or just kind of what the heck type post?
Nothing yet, and I'm really looking for it. I was digging around in the vendor database the other day, looking for people that labeled themselves as healthcare and fitness, and looking to see what was out there. And I was a little disappointed that it looked like the same old stuff, at least as far as the companies and the descriptions go. There's two things I'm looking for. I'm looking for the existing wearable marketplace to see where they think they're going to go for the next step. In other words, what's the R&D that they're doing that they're going to release at CES? That's where all the new stuff gets released for the next year. Yeah. So what is Fitbug and Fitbit and the rest of them thinking is the next big thing? And what functionality are they adding to their devices? So that's one thing I'm looking for, because like I said, they really haven't gotten there for me yet.
Okay.
But the other thing is, Jeff, and you've seen this, I'm waiting for that just happy thing. You just walk along and you just have to stop, back up, and say, does that do what I think it does?
Okay.
And I haven't seen that device in the materials that I'm getting yet, but I'm hoping I'm going to run into it on the floor. It's one of the reasons I go to conferences like CES, is to have that happy moment of discovery where I find somebody that gets it. and
Yeah.
somebody new that's going to come up with something that we're not that I'm not even aware of yet. And I saw it last year. The one that really stuck out for me was Reebok had invented or had created this wearable headband that you could put under a helmet that detected the concussion force of a blow to the head or the body, and measured that force in a way that could give a trainer some indication. It doesn't identify a concussion, but it gave them some indication of the amount of force imparted to the body. I thought that was a really neat thing. It was not something I had seen in any of my pre-research on the show, and it literally, I just walked past it and said, wait a minute, what is that? And it says Reebok, and what are they doing? And, so it was a trusted name coming up with a solution to a real big problem, which was head injuries, which is all the rage last year and still is. So I'm looking forward to that kind of experience. But nothing's leapt out at me yet. I'm still looking.
I remember that because I was your cameraman for that interview. So
Yeah.
But our CES plans always change. I'm doing something different. You're doing something different, or same. What's your plans for CES?
Well, I'm going to just be roving cameraman this time. I'm bringing my son Chris to be cameraman for me this year. So he'll be coming along, and he's looking forward to that. That's actually his birthday and Christmas present, because his birthday's in December. So he said, if I give up my birthday and Christmas present, can I be your cameraman at CES this year? So I was like, okay, we'll do that. We'll do that. I'll probably still pay him something along the way, but so we're going to go together and connect up with some of the people that we've met with in the past, and do what we normally do: roam around and look for the good stuff that really leaps out at the two of us as really innovative material. Because as well as I do, there are going to be 10,000 different types of earbuds and 20,000 different types of phone cases.
Yeah,
and you have to find the gems in the midst of all of that.
You got to find the one phone case that does what the other phone cases don't do.
Like the one I saw last year that was a taser. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, that's also a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, well, you can't even own it in some states. So
is that like a concealed carry type situation?
Yeah, it is actually. There's places in the United States where you can't own a taser device, a handheld taser device. It's limited to law enforcement only.
Okay, well there you go. Well then, I'll definitely see you at CES.
Definitely,
and
we'll have to make sure we hook up.
Oh yeah, definitely, and there'll be booths that I'll probably let you know about if I pass by, and stuff that you'll probably let me know if you
definitely.
see it. So.
Definitely.
All right, well tell people where they can find you once again, and we'll go from there.
Well, Health Tech Weekly's over at htweekly.com. That's our my healthcare weekly consumer health tech item space, and you can find that there. And of course, all of my shows for paramedics, nurses, and other healthcare professionals over at mediccast.com.
All right, Jamie, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Jeff.
Great interview with Jamie. Thank you very much, Jamie, for being on the show there. You got a lot of information out of it, Luke, right?
Yeah.
Tons.
Very interesting.
Definitely. So he hasn't seen it yet. So
yeah.
That's what you do in the broadcast space. So what do you think? That was very poignant, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, totally poignant.
Yeah.
So much poignancy.
What did Birdie think about it?
She supports the poignant viewpoint. Okay. She's like, yeah, poignant. That would be the word she would use.
Yeah. Beak got her tongue got her beak, or whatever that is.
Yeah. She's just speechless.
Speakless. So, all right, okay. Here's the plan. Next week we've got is it no show next? Yeah, no show next week. We're going to be doing it in bi-weekly episodes for the next few weeks. One, because the news kind of thins out because everybody's saving their big news until CES. That's the first week of January, and of course it's the holiday time. So we'll get some articles. But our next episode will be on not the 15th. I think. What did we say? Was it the 15th?
I think we were going to try to do one next week based on news. I mean, if there's no news, I guess no show.
Yeah, if no news is good news, then we're going to be Gary good news. But we'll have a show on the 15th, and then we'll have a show on the 29th. We'll skip the 22nd, so you can have your holidays. And unless there's absolutely lots of news that we really need to get out, which I highly doubt. But then we'll be back on the 29th of December, and maybe on the 22nd I'll put together a best of show. We'll see what happens. So. And then, of course, the 5th of January, I will be in Las Vegas for the Consumer Electronics Show. And that night will be crazy because I think that's PepCom night. So we'll just be running. We'll be running around like our chickens with their heads cut off. So, or our heads with our chickens cut off. One of the two. And then of course we will get back into a regular schedule the following week, which will be the 12th of January. Yes, the 12th of January. And then the week after that is the 19th, and that's the Martin Luther King holiday, and we're taking that off because it's another special day. And then the 26th we'll be back. So that's pretty much the schedule for the next few weeks. So it's almost a bi-weekly for the next few weeks, and then we'll get back into the show heart heavy. So any problems with that, Luke? That you've seen?
Sounds good.
Okay, Birdie's no problems with that?
Birdie will be here.
Birdie will be there. Okay, perfect. So, all right. Well, thanks a lot to Jamie Davis for coming on the show and helping us out and doing some questions and answers. And of course, we will see I guess on the 15th next week for episode number 60 of Wearable Today. My name is Jeffrey Powers. From Geekazine, Think Magazine, Put in a Geek. You can find me at jeff@wearabletoday.com is my email, and
I'm Luke Wallace. You can find me on Twitter at LukeLuca, or on Google Plus at google.com/plus Luke Wallace, or the email for this show, luke@wearabletoday.com. And if you want to email Birdie, that's birdie@wearabletoday.com.
Yeah, let's see.
And I will read her all her fan mail.
Yeah, let's see how many emails we can get through birdie@wearabletoday.com. And Birdie will actually respond to every single email on the show. So we'll get Birdie's thoughts on. I don't know if we'll do it on the. We'll see if we can do it on the 15th. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, all right. Well, thanks a lot, Luke, for coming here. We'll see you next week and go from there.
Yep. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for listening. You're listening and watching to the TV show or the show, the podcast, whatever. The thing that shakes it up. It's do that. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Birdie's
lightheaded now.
Yeah, Birdie's looking at you like going, really? Yeah. It's like, what? Did he just have a seizure or something? That's crazy. So anyway, that's this episode. We'll see you next time on Wearable Today. Take care.